1 in 3. That's how many American men will face physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 3 women worldwide will endure physical or sexual abuse, most often by someone they know. But domestic abuse isn't just bruises. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's control that seeps into every part of your life. I'm Ingrid Dutton, and I survived it. Then I created 1 in 3 so no one else has to suffer in silence. Each week, we break that silence together. Occasionally joined by survivors, loved ones, and experts, we talk about the pain, yes, but also about the healing, resilience, and the fight to reclaim your life. This podcast is more than awareness, it's a lifeline. And a reminder, you are seen, you are heard, you are never alone. Search for 1 in 3 wherever you get your podcasts, because every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard.
On July 4th, 1881, the Tuskegee Normal School was officially opened. It was co-founded by Booker T. Washington, Lewis Adams, and George W. Campbell. The name of the school changed multiple times before ultimately becoming Tuskegee University in 1985. The institute was known for a number of things, such as its role with the Tuskegee Airmen, as well as many research studies. One of the most infamous of those was the syphilis study conducted on unknowing Black men.
Hiya, sister.
Hiya. How are you?
Hiya. Good.
Good. Okay, so Tuskegee.
I'm Jessica.
Oh, yep. You sure are. And that would make me Ingrid.
Sure would. Sherwood Forest. Sure would.
And you guys are listening to us
on another situation. I was trying not to say it like that.
I know. I'm just gonna let you keep trying.
Oh, good grief. Question.
Yeah.
Why July 4th? Was that just a coincidence?
No, they did it on purpose because they wanted to pay tribute to America's independence and also kind of the emancipation. So the independence of the Black people from slavery. And so they wanted to pay tribute to that.
Did you find out how it's actually pronounced? Did you?
Tuskegee.
It is Tuskegee?
Mm-hmm.
Not Tuskegee.
Correct.
Tuskegee. Okay.
Tuskegee, Alabama. Well, here, let me finish talking about it. So no, that's fine. I was going to talk about something else first, but I'll talk about that. So the reason it was founded is there's a Democratic guy named W.F. Foster who is running as a Democrat. Did I already say he was a Democrat?
Yes, twice.
Okay, one more time. He was a Democrat running for the Alabama Senate seat, and he wanted to. And ladies and gentlemen, the verbiage I'm using is from
the time period.
What's that noise? From this genre. So that's I change up the vocab a little bit, but
from this genre, like
genre, this era. Yeah, no, I'm cutting that out.
No, you're not.
I sure am.
No.
Okay. So he wanted to secure the Negro vote. So he approached a former slave and a prominent man in the community, Lewis Adams, to find out what he could promise in order to get him to rally up this vote. And so Adams said he wanted to further education for Black people. And so he asked for financial funding to provide it. And Foster ended up winning the race, and he was able to assist in passing House Bill number 165, which allocated $2,000 to fund the salaries of teachers and provide free tuition for students as long as they agreed to teach in Alabama's public schools for at least 2 years.
What years? I'm so sorry. What years is
This was in 1881.
1881. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And
how much is $2,000 worth now? Like 1881. Is that a lot of money? Because that doesn't sound like a lot of money. Maybe it is.
It's a lot of money.
Is it?
It's a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because there's another number that I actually know the difference between later in the story.
Okay.
But the part of the agreement was that there had to be at least 25 students who stayed in session, and it had to run for at least 9 months out of the year. And they were able to get Booker T. Washington to be the initial principal, and he ended up being the president of the school until he died in 1915. And when Tuskegee Normal School was initially founded, it was a shack. Booker T. Washington wrote that the shack was in such deplorable state that at one point when it was raining, one of the older students got up from his studies and held an umbrella over Washington's head while the other students recited their verses to him.
Wow.
And he didn't want to put up with that anymore. So he was able to strike a deal on the Bowman plantation. I'm going off memory here because my pages are messed up. Not Bowman, Bowen plantation, which was also known as the Burnt Place. So it was a former cotton plantation. It had gotten burned during something. And
a fire.
Yes, a fire. And brimstone. And so it left just a very few buildings standing. But what was really cool is when Washington started the school, he also had the students partake in a little bit of manual labor, and they farmed the plantation because he wanted to be able to be a kind of a self-sustaining school. But they were able to purchase that plantation for $500. They had to borrow the money, and they had it paid off in 4 months. Yeah. So pretty cool. So I'm going to jump and start talking about something else. A silly little thing called syphilis.
That killed Al Capone.
Right. Oh, I did want to say that strangely, we've talked about syphilis in a lot of our episodes. There's not a reason for it. Ironically, I didn't mention this in the Black History Month episodes number 7 or 8, which you would think I mentioned the Tuskegee Airmen, but I didn't mention the Tuskegee syphilis study, which I'm kind of surprised I didn't, because that's just another example of poor treatment. We mentioned syphilis in What the HeLa, episode number 34, and the Valentine's Day Massacre, which was number, I wrote it down, 6. It was episode number 6.
And what episode is this?
This is number 35.
Is it really?
36.
36.
Because
okay.
ayahuasca was 35. And quickly, let me cite my sources. There's a lot. MayoClinic.org, CDC.gov, Encyclopedia.com, AmericasBestHistory.com, History.com, Tuskegee.edu. And probably the most information I got was from the book, The Tuskegee Syphilis Study by Fred D. Gray. And I actually listened to it on Audible. It was quite pleasant to listen to. The reader has a nice soothing voice. So the cause of syphilis is a bacterium called Treponema pallidum. Syphilis is mostly spread through sexual contact, and there are a few different stages of syphilis. So there's the primary stage, which you may what?
Just go ahead with your education on syphilis.
Well, I just wanted to explain a little bit. It does kind of play in the
No,
rest
I
of the
don't know
story.
this, so I'm laughing, but it's also beneficial.
It starts as like, it almost looks like a pimple on your genitalia.
Excuse me.
And then when it opens, it's called a chancre.
A chancre?
And yes.
Ooh.
And this pimple or this little lesion can be found on the penis, the vagina, the anus, the rectum, or your lips. And most of the time they're painless. So a lot of times people don't even notice it.
Huh.
And the sore typically lasts about 3 to 6 weeks, and then it goes away. And then you may not see anything for quite a while. And then you go into the secondary stage. And secondary stage, what I wanted to say is the chancre it can show up about 3 weeks after you've been exposed to syphilis. And that is also painless. Secondary stage, you have skin rashes, sores. You can have rashes on your palms or on the bottom of your feet. Right.
Sorry.
I love that you just looked at your hand. And this rash can show up as that sore is healing, or it can show up weeks after that sore has healed. And the rash is rough. It's red or reddish brown. It doesn't itch. And sometimes you don't notice it because it can be really faint.
Wow.
Right. Some people might also have fever, sore throat, headaches, muscle aches, or feeling very fatigued, but other people don't feel anything. And then these also go away. And
so you
then
could think it was just like the cold or a flu or something.
Right. And
oh
then
my gosh, how sneaky.
you may move into the latent or even tertiary stage. Latent stage is where there's nothing. You don't see anything, and this can last for years and years and years and years. And untreated, you may go into the tertiary stage. And most people actually don't get this. And that's today. I don't know if that was necessarily the case ages ago, but most people don't develop tertiary syphilis now. But when it does happen, it can affect your heart, your brain, your nervous system. It's super serious. It usually happens about 10 to 30 years after you have the initial infection.
10 to 30.
Yes.
Wow.
And it can ultimately result in death. And there's a couple different kinds. There's neurosyphilis, ocular syphilis, and otosyphilis. Neurosyphilis it affects your central nervous system. You can have headaches, you can have muscle weaknesses, and you can develop such severe dementia. It can be like full dementia, which is Al Capone. And then ocular syphilis, eye pain, you can have changes in your vision. You can even go blind. Otosyphilis are hearing loss, tinnitus, roaring or hissing in the ears, dizziness, or vertigo. And then the neurosyphilis, another thing that I already talked about that. Cardiovascular syphilis, you can develop aneurysms, and those aneurysms can just burst and you have sudden death. So that's the happiness of syphilis. Now, syphilis had been plaguing the world for centuries, actually. It was known to cause neurological and symptoms, like I mentioned before. In the 16th century, Jean Fernelius, a Parisian teacher, he was trying to study it, and he developed mercury as a treatment for syphilis.
Ooh.
And mercury was used for treatment along with bismuth salts beginning in 1884. And that happened until 1908 when arsphenamine, which is an arsenic compound, was introduced. Right.
So mercury and then arson.
Arsenic, yeah.
Jeez.
Arson. That's what happened to the plantation. Was
Yeah,
arson.
I know. I realized what I did there. I'm just going to let it go.
And I can't let it go.
So, okay, question, like, how did it heal? Like why would they think that's a cure? Is it because I just got mercury poisoning and they're like, oh, that's not
I swear that mercury and bismuth salts were the cure for everything.
back in the day?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe it just happened to coincide with you take this and then you moved into like the latent phase just coincidentally. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But from 1891 to 1910, there were approximately 2,000 patients with syphilis that were admitted to the Department of Dermatology in Oslo University. And the head of the department, Caesar Bock, B-O-E-C-K, he believed in letting the disease take its natural course. He thought that these treatments were actually more detrimental to the disease than anything else. And so the patients would stay hospitalized while, like, if they had any open sores or lesions or whatever, but once those went away, they would get discharged. And he wrote down detailed notes of the diagnosis and the clinical course of the disease. So that study comes into play in a little bit. I know it looks like I'm jumping around a lot, and I kind of am, just because there's a lot of information about this, a lot of rabbit holes that I started falling down in, and I had to climb back up. So Julius Rosenwald he's a white man of Jewish descent, and he was a co-owner of Sears Roebuck. What? and he became a really amazing philanthropist. And he started the Rosenwald Fund in 1917 for the, quote, well-being of mankind. And he donated and this is 1917, over $70 million donated to schools, museums, and institutions before the funds were depleted in 1948.
So 1970, that much money in 1917?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And there was a special place in his heart to assist the Black community and the poor, specifically like the poor Black community. And the fund assisted in providing education for Black healthcare providers, getting there to be Black nurses, Black doctors, and providing healthcare.
So progressive.
I know. Providing healthcare when necessary or possible. And the Rosenwald Fund worked with the United States public health system to accomplish all of this. And Dr. Michael M. Davis was named as the medical director of the Rosenwald Fund. And then he wanted somebody designated for this position. The Surgeon General appointed Dr. T. Clark to be the Rosenwald Fund advisor to the South to work with a public health system in the South.
Okay.
And I think it was 1929, there was a study conducted by the USPHS, the United States Public Health System, where about a quarter of a sample of 2,000 Black patients was discovered in Mississippi. And the public health system went to the Rosenwald Foundation and asked for a grant to treat these syphilis patients. And so the fund gave $1,000 toward treatment as long as they employed at least one Negro nurse. And once this happened, that made the PHS wanted to do more. So they went back to the Rosenwald Fund and said, what else can we do for the South? Syphilis is a prevalent issue down here. And so $50,000 was allotted to conduct a similar plan in 6 counties in the states of Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. And so they conducted a survey between 1929 and 1931. And there was syphilis in every single county, but there were varying degrees on the severity or the amount of people that had it. And there was 36% of the population had syphilis in Macon County, Alabama.
Wow.
And out of that 36%, only 5% of those had been treated with arsenic compounds, which they were kind of saying that's the official treatment for syphilis. These numbers, the survey was completed, the public health system went back to the Rosenwald Fund and asked for more money to treat the syphilis. 1932, it was the Great Depression. And the fund was like, you know what? We just can't. We can't give you any more money. The Great Depression's killing everybody here. We need to hang on to what we have. And so they could not provide any money for the actual treatment. Where's my little list here? Raymond Vondeler. He was a syphilologist, and he thought that this would be if the fund was not going to provide money for the treatment of syphilis, that this might be a good opportunity to conduct a study that they could instead of treating syphilis, study the effects of non-treatment of syphilis. And the reasoning behind this is that there was the Oslo study, which stated that 36% of latent syphilis patients left untreated, only 36% would later develop lesions or serious complications of syphilis. Whereas there was another study by Johns Hopkins syphilologist, Dr. J.E. Moore, who found that 80% of syphilis patients would later develop lesions and severe complications.
The ones that were treated with something at Johns Hopkins?
Treated. This was also not treated.
No, okay.
So you have 80% versus 30%, and then you have the poor effects of arsenic and mercury. And that kind of left people wondering, well, what's the better risk versus benefit here? Should we treat them? If it's 80%, then we should probably treat. But if it's only 30%, 36%, then maybe we shouldn't treat.
Right.
So he did think that there needed to be a study that looked at the non-treatment to see how severe these symptoms could actually, or complications could actually be. It was 3 reasons they wanted to do this study. Another one was they thought perhaps once the severity of syphilis was proven, that more funds would be allocated by generosity, by grants and so forth to actually treat this. And I'm going to call him Dr. V. Vondeler or whatever. Vondeler. So he charted that the United States was already aware that Black syphilis patients were more likely to have cardiovascular syphilis as a long-term complication versus the neurosyphilis findings of the Norwegian study.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So good intentions. And
do you think that's because of climate?
What?
The neurological versus cardiac.
I think if you look at like an African American descent and what they're more prone to as far as healthcare problems, they're more prone to hypertension and cardiac disease at baseline. Okay. So I don't know if maybe this, and I may be completely wrong. I make things up. It's fact or fiction or Ingrid fact. But in my brain, that makes sense. That maybe the syphilis just potentiated that. So the goal was to look at, again, the Black population, and men were specifically chosen over women because their genitalia is external. And in order to provide a history as far as the onset of syphilis, you would be able to get a more accurate timeline because there's more likelihood that the men would have noticed that first lesion versus a woman where it's going to be internal. And if it's painless, you might not have ever noticed it.
Unless you're Henrietta Lacks and does a self-examination.
Right. They looked at Macon County specifically because it had the highest percentage of syphilis. It was very rural, and I don't know if they necessarily chose it because it was rural and a higher degree of lower socioeconomic status than others, but probably. So that's why they looked at Macon County, was because of the higher percentage of syphilis. And Tuskegee Institute was thought that it would be less expensive because it was already established.
Is that in Macon County?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is, where is it? The John A. Andrew Memorial Hospital is part of the Tuskegee Institute. And they had everything that you needed to perform any necessary testing to be done. So they thought if we use the Tuskegee Institute, which is developed to be run by a Black majority, then the funding needed to do all of this would be less. Or maybe the funds were already there, donated to the school. So the initial plan was for the study to just last for 6 to 8 months. And in order to, first of all, they had to get approval to do this study. And they had to get approval. Okay, that's what I was going to say. The community doctors, first of all, because they're going to have to be referring their patients to have this study done. So they approached the 9 white and 1 African-American physician in the county to ask for their approval. And when they voted, the African-American physician was not allowed on the board because, well, it's Jim Crow era. So he was not able to partake in the vote. And let's see, they went to the public health department, and I have his name somewhere, and we'll hear it at some point, but I don't know where it is. I'm not going to search for it now. Oh, right here, Dr. Baker.
That's a really rough name.
Right there. Dr. Baker was the state health officer. And so when they asked his approval to proceed with the study, he said it would be fine, but all patients who tested positive for syphilis had to receive treatment. And if the person was not included in the study, they needed to get treatment right away. But if they were included in the study, he was okay with deferring treatment because, again, the initial study was only supposed to be 6 to 8 months. And because when you actually treated for syphilis, oftentimes the treatment would last over a year because you would alternate the neoarsophenamine, the arsenic compound, with mercury.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, they got approval. Let's do it. And in October 1932 is when they got the approval and the support for the study to begin. When they proceeded with obtaining their sample collection, what they did is they put notifications up and said that the government was coming to do another free treatment. And they had just had free treatment by government doctors, and it was wonderful. So the Macon County residents already thought it was another public health treatment program, and they trusted these guys. And they were going to receive thorough examinations. They were going to get the treatment that they needed. And this was a deliberate deceit because the research physicians were all white. And so the all white team, along with a public, I have PH and I keep wanting to say pulmonary hypertension. The public health officials.
I hate it when that happens.
The public health officials, they were aware of the deceit, but they were afraid if they revealed the full plan that they wouldn't get any participants. Team was comprised of Dr. Taliaferro Clark, the appointed guy to work with the public health system in the South.
Okay.
There was Eunice Rivers, who was the deliberately chosen, quote, Negro nurse. Dr. Oliver Wenger, at the time, he was the director of the public health system, and specifically with a venereal disease clinic. And then Dr. Vondeler, Dr. V, was the onset director of the study. And Dr. HeLa was the assistant of Dr. V. And the study lasted from 1932 until 1972. And it was divided up into like 3 phases.
I'm sorry. Can you go over those years again?
1932 to 1972. 40 years.
That is not 6 to 8 months.
No. And let me explain what happened.
Okay.
So phase 1 was 1932, and that's where they decided to collect men. Don't we all try to do that?
No, God.
Yeah. God, try to get rid of them. Okay, so what happened was, again, the county residents were told that the government doctors were returning to provide treatment. Mm-hmm. And there were notices that were sent in the mail. They were posted at churches, and they were posted at schools. The goal was to test enough people to get a good sample size. And what they wanted was an age group of 25 years old or older, around 400 people who had syphilis for at least 5 years. So over 4,400 men and women over the age of 18 were initially tested.
Wow.
Out of that number, 990 tested positive.
Wow.
Out of the 1,782 men that were aged 25 and up, there were 472 that were positive. And then there were 408 men who were felt to have had syphilis for a long enough time to be admitted into the study. And the participants initially had blood drawn, and they were just told either they were told nothing, or they were told we're just checking for bad blood. And they didn't explain what bad blood meant. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes they would say it's too complicated to discuss. And no one was ever. I know.
Such an arrogant comment.
When they tested positive, they were never told they had syphilis.
What?
And they were never told that they were part of a research study. And Nurse Rivers said that people lined up for the blood tests, even if they didn't even know what a blood test was. They were just excited to be looked at by the doctors. Mm-hmm. And those who did know what a blood test was, they were really concerned about getting checked for bad blood. Mm-hmm. Even I feel healthy, but what if I have this bad blood they're talking about? So once they tested positive, they were retested again. And if they tested positive a second time, then that means that they got a physical exam by Dr. V. So Nurse Rivers would drive them in her personal car to Tuskegee, and they would get a chest x-ray, they would get an echocardiogram, and they would have a whole huge workup, personal mm-hmm. health history. And if they felt that they had syphilis for less than 5 years, they actually got treated for syphilis, and they were ruled out of the study.
Wow.
And she also noted that people were so excited to go to Tuskegee because they had heard about the Tuskegee Institute. They'd never been. They got to take a tour of it.
Oh my gosh.
These are small town farmers who are so excited to see like the big city and see all this stuff that everybody's always talking about.
Gosh, that makes my heart hurt.
I know. They stopped testing at churches and schools, and they started just going to places where men worked mm-hmm. because too many women kept showing up. Mm-hmm. And if a woman tested positive, because of the deal that they made with Dr. Baker, they had to treat her. So their funds were starting to dwindle, and they're like, we don't want to treat
we don't want to cure these women.
Yeah, we don't want to treat anybody We're hoping everybody rules into the study and then we don't have to treat. Okay, so the last part of the study, which is April or May of 1933, was to obtain a sample of spinal fluid from the lumbar region. And what they told the participants was, they kept saying participants. They weren't participants because they didn't
know what they were participating in.
Exactly. So you could say they're victims, more or less. But anyway, I'll refer to them as a patients because participants really weirds me out. But the patients were told that you're going to get a shot. That's part. So they would give notices to everyone and break them up into groups. And like, this group, you meet at this place on this day, and you meet at this place on this day. And then Nurse Rivers would take a couple of them in a car, drop them off, and then go back and get another couple. And then they would keep the patients overnight to monitor for any kind of symptoms. Nurse Rivers, on her account, said that they'd bring the gentleman into the room and have them lean over an exam table. And then Dr. V would insert a 3-inch needle into their lumbar spine to obtain the sample.
Without even any local...
I read and I listened to a couple of different things, and I didn't see anywhere that they used any sort of anesthetic. So
oh my gosh.
I can't say for sure that they did not, but it did not appear to be the case.
Did you say a 3-inch needle?
A 3-inch needle, yeah.
What gauge was it? It had to be huge to get.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Oh, those poor men.
Least.
Oh gosh, those poor men.
Right. And when they sent the letter for this to be done, they would put on there, remember, this is your last chance for free treatment. Because the study was ending.
What that?
Okay. So that was in 1933. And this was initially Dr. Clark's he's one who really pushed for the study to be done. Okay. He retired in June 1933. But he had Dr. V take his place. And then Dr. V was really disappointed that the study was ending. So he said, let's keep this going. And he proposed that they continue the study. And he said the information isn't complete. Before they got the lumbar puncture, he was really disappointed because the patients weren't exhibiting any neurosyphilis complications. This is kind of gross. He wanted to be able to witness a man or many patients going through the neurosyphilis changes, and he wanted to be able to document. He wanted to see somebody start losing their mind, and he wanted to be able to document it. And so he was really frustrated that this wasn't happening, even though he knew that Black individuals were more prone to cardiovascular syphilis versus neuro. And I'm not sure if that's the only reason that they pursued the lumbar puncture, but I know that they got the LP in part so they could assess for neurosyphilis.
Wow.
Changes there.
So it's just to appease him.
Well,
essentially.
I don't know if it's just him, but anyway, he said that the study wasn't done and they needed to continue on. And his plan was to follow at least the older patients to autopsy. So he wanted to continue to monitor these men and let them remain untreated so that he could perform
unknowing of their diagnosis.
Correct. So that he could perform an autopsy on them when they died. And in this phase 2, so phase 2 lasted from June 1933 until 1965.
Our dad was alive when this was still happening.
Right.
I mean, our mom was too, but.
Right. And they also added a control group at this time. So I think in total there were 3.
What control group is usually like nothing happens to them. Like they get a placebo.
Right. Well, so what they did is I think they went back to the initial screening, and what they did is they took individuals that did not have syphilis. So there were, I believe in total, there were 399 men with syphilis, 201 men that did not have syphilis. And
no one got treatment.
And nobody got treatment. Nobody got treatment. So again, 1933 to 1965, penicillin was discovered to be an effective treatment for syphilis in 1943, and is widely available in 1947.
Wow. Is that what they use now to treat it? I was actually going to ask that earlier. Okay.
It's easily treatable. Yeah. And so what unfortunate part of this study, with so many unfortunate parts, but unfortunately, like looking from the researcher's perspective, is that most of the men who died at home, even though they said, hey, anybody who's really, really sick, we have free hospitalization and health care at the Tuskegee Institute. So come here and we'll treat you. And that didn't matter. So that prompted another plan. So in 1935,
wait, I have a question. Did it say like why they died at home? Do they just prefer it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then patients were told in 1935 that, and the family was told this as well, that the family would receive burial insurance payments for the families if an autopsy were performed. So they came up with this scheme. They worked with a burial company, I guess. And I think they were given, I can't remember if it was $25 or $50 for every autopsy that they were able to perform. And so now it was, you get free hospitalization if you come here, with free treatment, and then your family will be given, a stipend of money
should you pass away.
Yeah. And they were told that, if they continued the bad blood treatment, they'd receive this insurance, and then they would also get treatment for any illnesses that they may find along the way.
Really?
Yes. And when they died, samples were sent to the National Institute of Health. Until death, the patients were examined once a year. Free medicine was given out, and Nurse Rivers was assigned to keep in contact with each of these men because she was able to develop a relationship with them. In 1932, 1938, 1948, and 1952, Public Health Service doctors re-examined the patients as well. And on these yearly exams, the patients were promised free hot lunches and free transportation. They were always given free medicine except for penicillin. And they were able to stop in town to shop and visit with friends. In 1958, for the 25-year anniversary of the study, the patients were given a 25-year certificate for participation in the bad blood study.
Did it really say bad blood study?
It said bad blood treatment. I don't think it said study.
But
and nobody knew what bad blood is. I read that at some point there were some physicians that would get involved with this, and everybody referred to it as bad blood, and they thought that was just a nickname that the patients gave syphilis.
Oh.
So they thought that they were aware of what was going on. They just called it bad blood. They were also given $25, so $1 a year for their participation.
Oh my gosh.
And all of them were still very excited to go to Tuskegee. And they felt kind of like a celebrity because, I'm a small town person and I'm coming here, and they're putting, like, they would listen to them with a stethoscope and they would ask, "What are you doing?" And Nurse Rivers would say, we're checking your heart. And they would freak out, like, "What, you can check my heart with that thing?" And so they were super excited. The medications they were given some pink pills, which were actually aspirin.
Okay.
They were given a green tonic, which was some iron. And they were given shots at their yearly checkups. And this was the control group, and the study group was given a whole slew of different things. And they all assumed it was treatment for bad blood. So the Public Health Services Department made sure that the Macon County participants could not receive any treatment for syphilis. And penicillin was withheld, but they were not permitted to receive treatment anywhere. So at one point, little mobile medical units started going out into the communities to provide penicillin shots for people who tested positive for syphilis. And the names of the participants were given out. Some of the physicians, right? Some of the local physicians knew that their patients were in studies. Nurse Rivers, because she worked part-time as a nurse for the research, but also part-time for public health services. So she was part of these mobile units that would go give them the penicillin injections. She recognized who was in the study, and she was saying, "No, you can't get this." And so they would deliberately withhold treatment for them.
Did anyone ever talk to her after all this was over to see how guilty she feels?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure she has to. I will talk about something a little bit later with her. So here's another thing.
I don't know why I singled her out for having a heart. I guess maybe because she was a female.
Well, and she's a Black nurse, so you would think that this would have been tearing her.
Yeah.
But so there was concern when the men began to get drafted into World War II. Because when you're part of the military, you test positive for syphilis, you get treated for syphilis.
Well, now you just get a penicillin shot in boot camp.
Well, right, because
they don't even ask you. They don't even test you. Like, bend over for the peanut butter shot.
Peanut butter? Because
it feels like peanut butter coming through that needle.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the consistency of the penicillin. I don't think they do the shot anymore. That's might be olden days.
But what happened is these researchers were able to contact the, I guess, Department of Defense, I suppose it would be.
Yeah.
And give a list of these men, if they happen to be drafted, cannot receive treatment for syphilis.
Oh my God. There's so many levels of the shadiness.
Right. And now I might have mixed up these numbers a little bit or gotten these numbers wrong somewhat. But in 1950, they did publish some results which showed that the life expectancy for people with syphilis was decreased by 20% if it was not treated. There was a greater involvement of the cardiovascular system disease, and without treatment, subjects had a higher rate of mortality from just other things in general. In 1952, 40% of the syphilis patients and 20% of the controls had died. And at that point, they found there was a 17% reduction in the life expectancy. However, they felt with 20 years invested into this study, it would be wrong to stop the study.
So was this all like Dr. V's? I mean, obviously there's people supporting him, but...
So Dr. V actually retired in 1943 upon the discovery of penicillin.
Oh, okay.
Did I say penicillin? I feel like I said that weird.
Yeah.
And let's see who took his place.
Dr. Frankenstein?
Yes, that's it. And Dr. Jekyll was his assistant. Okay, so then now we go into phase 3, which was mid-1965 until 1972.
Wow.
The changes you think of as this is now in the midst of the civil rights movement.
Yes.
So the beginning of this study was Jim Crow era genre. But at this point, 400 to 500 of the 600 participants had died. And all of the doctors that were originally involved in this have completely changed. So now you have different, maybe more progressive physicians involved. And they were attempting to find participants because some had moved. They weren't sure where a lot of them were. So that was an issue. And they had some major self-reflection at this point. They had a big meeting. Do we continue this study?
Did they take ayahuasca and do some find out their sense of self?
That's exactly it. And guess what? They found out that they loved themselves too much to stop.
Oh, not
Right.
good self-reflection.
So part of their excuses that they use to continue the study is, well, those who are remaining are too old. If we were going to treat them at this point, it would either be pointless or more detrimental to their well-being.
Giving them
if we treated them.
penicillin would be more detrimental.
Right.
Oh, for the love.
They were aware that we are now in a world where we will never be able to conduct a study like this again. So we need to see it all the way through.
That's so dirty and gross.
Right. Well, let me introduce you to another key player.
I don't want to meet them.
You do. You want to meet this guy.
Do I?
You do.
I don't like anyone else you've talked about.
His name is Peter Buxton, and he was a public health service venereal disease interviewer and investigator out in San Francisco.
Okay.
So he happened to come upon this study, and he looked into it and he said, that does not sound right. What do you mean these guys are deliberately not getting treated? So in 1966, he actually sent a letter to the National Director of the Division of Venereal Diseases. And he said, listen, have you heard of this study? This doesn't make any sense that this is continuing to go on. Sure, I get it. In 1931, there was no accurate treatment for syphilis, and we're just looking at people fine. But how can you deliberately withhold treatment from someone knowing what this disease can do left untreated? It doesn't sound right.
So you said that like you feel like he was tipped off. You kind of said that like
no, he wasn't tipped off. He just happened to come upon.
Oh, he really
because
did.
there had been There had been some articles that were published, and I think he just happened to kind of come upon it, and then he dug in a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Like, this study sounds kind of sketch. Let me look into it more.
Okay.
And so he looked into it more, and he liked less and less of what he saw. And so when he wrote his letter, who then forwarded it to the CDC. And
when was the CDC formed? It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Go Buxton, though.
The CDC is who actually controlled this study.
Oh.
And so, right. And so they were like, to keep it going, I think it makes sense. All we're going to do is just wait until these subjects die, and we're going to do an autopsy. And they got support from like the medical community to continue it. So,
oh my gosh.
Shortly after this, Buxton left his job, and he decided to pursue a career in law. And in 1968, he sent another letter. And I want to say that the guy's name is Dr. Brown now, but I might be wrong.
How brown cow.
Attached so there's actual records of these things in all the paperwork for the files of the study, and
all the paperwork.
So Buxton's original letter had stapled to it. It looks like Brown had, and it may not be Brown. I might be saying the wrong name, but his name is now Brown. And he had initially drafted a response, which it looks like he decided not to send. And instead, in some notes, he said, had a meeting with, and it had a bunch of people listed, including Buxton. So it looked like they sat down and met with him. And that's probably where the CDC said, yeah, I think we need to continue. But then in 1968, he sent another letter. And at this time, Brown, I think at this point is when in phase 3, when the whole group got together and said, hey, we need to do some self-reflection here and find out, figure out, should we continue or should we stop this? What should we do? And again, the ultimate decision was, let's just go ahead and continue. So he finally said, you know what? Do you know who's going to do something about this? The press. And on July 25th, 1972, Jean HeLa of the Associated Press released the story, and it was front page news in the New York Times the following day.
Awesome.
And
that just gave me the chills.
Senator Edward Kennedy called congregational hearings. Buxton testified, and the CDC and PHS appointed an ad hoc advisory panel, but that was done before, when they were doing their self-review. And they said, these men agreed to partake. They could have left at any point.
What?
Right.
Okay, sorry. I'll let you finish.
And, they agreed to be examined. They agreed that they would receive treatment. But then they said they were not informed of the study's actual purpose. And what was it? I think the initial 200 positive were not supposed to get treatment. I can't remember. There was just so much convoluted, backtracking, twisting of reality to make it sound like this was
on
okay
the up
to
and
do.
up. Yeah.
Right. Regardless, October 25th, 1972, the order of immediate termination of the Tuskegee study was pushed through, and immediate treatment of all participants, which suddenly, despite their advanced age, they could actually get. So Charlie Pollard was kind of a prominent man in the Black community. And he was, I want to say he was out in the field when a reporter came up to him and started asking him questions of, how do you feel about being in this syphilis study? And he's like, what are you talking about? So for 40 years, he was unaware that he had syphilis. The next day, he visited Fred Gray, who's the author of this book and also happens to be an attorney, and said, I need you to file a lawsuit, please. Yeah. And in 1974, there was a settlement of a class action lawsuit where...
So it was civil? It wasn't even criminal court?
It was against the U.S. government and whatever physicians were currently serving on that research panel. And in 1974, the plaintiffs, I suppose, right? Plaintiffs were awarded $10 million, which amounts to $51.8 million today. And
between how many of them, though?
Well, it was divvied up, and not all of the money has been claimed, but it was divvied up. They broke it down to, and it's in that book. by Fred Gray
Mm-hmm.
of who got what, but there were four groups. So there was the control group that was still living. There was the control group who was deceased, but family members.
Mm-hmm.
There was the syphilis group that was still alive, and the syphilis group with a deceased member.
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't talk about at the beginning. I did say that there's congenital syphilis, but there's also, I talked about it a little bit in the HeLa episode. There's syphilis that can be passed down from a pregnant mother who has syphilis, that she can pass it to her unborn baby. Congenital syphilis can result in deafness. It can result in inability to speak.
Really?
Mental retardation, all sorts of bad things. And so, again, if you think about it, like the partners of these men were not treated, not aware that their partners had syphilis. So even if it was not monogamous, then they're in a polygamy and they're infecting multiple people and
then the children.
And then the children.
Right.
Correct. One more thing I wanted to say about syphilis, just in case. You cannot get it from a toilet seat, a doorknob, swimming pools, hot tubs, bathtubs, sharing clothes, or eating utensils. I don't want anyone to start freaking out about things. It is from sex or mom passing it. Or I guess if it's not like actual, just keep your clothes on.
Or see your provider for penicillin.
Practice safe sex. And with monkeypox going around, you really want to be careful about your sexual partners anyway. All right. And so these people got this payout. There was also any surviving participants and surviving family members also were able to receive free medical treatment, I think, for the rest of their lives. And
the least they could do.
The least.
I mean,
right.
would you want it though from them?
They also founded the Tuskegee Human and Civil Rights Multicultural Center, which is in Tuskegee, Alabama. And there is a tribute to the syphilis study participants. And in 1997, President Bill Clinton issued an apology, which said the United States government did something that was wrong, deeply, profoundly, morally wrong. It is not only in remembering that shameful past that we can make amends and repair our nation, but it is in remembering that past that we can build a better present and a better future. And I wrote that down twice. So I know we didn't necessarily choose this topic to really coincide with the Immunization Awareness Month. I know we did it because of Tuskegee happened to come up during the Henrietta Lacks episode. But it does coincide with immunization awareness in a negative way, kind of, because there was a lot of controversy, I guess, at that time where the Black American people thought that they were being used as guinea pigs in different studies. And
that's crazy.
Right. And everybody was actually saying that that's crazy, you're paranoid or whatever. But this kind of proves that that was actually factual. And so,
well, and so does Henrietta Lacks' story.
Right. Right. So when you get someone who hears these things, they say, you know what, the government is, they lie. Well, they do lie, but it does scare people away from receiving vaccinations because they're wondering, well, what kind of testing was done on this vaccine?
Like COVID.
Or am I part of some study? Like, what are they actually putting in me? Are they deliberately putting something in me so they can study me later?
See, maybe it's my, I was going to say blase carte, but I don't think that's the right word. I think I'm just mixing terms together. But being in the military and also being a veteran, like I just automatically assume I'm getting tested on, like, is this really like what you're putting? You want me to put this mist up my nose? Like what? Okay, sure. I'll do it.
Right. Well, and I think, with COVID, especially, there is a lot of controversy over, has this been adequately tested?
Right.
Or am I part of some experiments?
Well, I have to admit, like I knew the gist of the story. I didn't know the details like you told it. So I'm so glad you told the story. But and by the way, listeners, I won. I told you I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, I'm a sucker.
And then, so is that the end of your info?
That's it.
Wow. I gotta say, okay, so I knew the story. I must have forgot it was 40 years. I didn't think it was that long. I didn't think it went into 1972 for sure.
Right. I don't think I realized how long it actually went.
Yeah.
And I knew it was shady. I knew that they were withholding treatment to study.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I didn't.
Information. Yeah.
Right. And I don't, like you said, I didn't realize how long they withheld treatment. I mean, we're talking 15 years of there's an actual treatment out for something and they withheld it.
Effective treatment.
Right. Right. And I didn't realize how shady it all was too. So like if you look at research today, there's so many rules that were broken. No informed consent. Nobody had any idea they were even part of a study. And even if they said, "Hey, we have this study, would you like to be in it?" You can't coerce somebody with, "You're going to get a free meal."
Right.
You're going to get $25 at 25 years.
Free medical care, transportation.
Right.
Wait, you said you were going to follow up about the nurse, about how.
Oh, right. So this lawsuit, I forgot to say that. So the lawsuit was against, like I said, it was like the medical panel that was currently there, which they were all white physicians, and it was against the United States.
Sorry.
Are you snoring? You froze with your eyes closed.
I pretended to snore like, oh, of course it was white physicians.
And then it was also against the United States government because it was a federally funded public health service. But they did not go after the Tuskegee Institute or Nurse Rivers. And
really,
I'm really glad that Mr. Gray addressed this, because he even says in his book, like, I've been asked, because he's a black man himself.
Oh, okay.
And one thing he said too, he's like, I was a practicing attorney. I grew up here. I felt like I was
Alabama?
really, yeah,
okay.
I believe so. I might have made that up. But he was practicing in Alabama. So he's like, yeah, there you go, the South. And he said that, as a practicing attorney, he was really immersed within the community, like all levels of the community. And he said, I think he was practicing there since 1950 something.
Wow.
And he said he had no idea any of this was going on until he read the news article.
Wow.
And so he's like, this is just insane.
Like the Associated Press news article? Is that the one you're talking about? Okay.
That this continued for 40 years and no one outside of that little community had any idea what was going on. But he did say that is a good question. Why didn't I go after Tuskegee Institute? Why didn't I go after Nurse Rivers? Is it because they're black and I'm black? And this was clearly, I think there were multiple counts of what they went after, but the fact that it was a racially motivated study, they were able to prove, because there was not a single white person in the study. But he said, no, I didn't not go after them because they're black. But if you look at Nurse Rivers, how much of a voice did she actually have in any of this? She was a participant, and she did knowingly say, I'll cook you a hot meal.
She did her job.
Everywhere. But he made a good point. I think it was him. It might have been somewhere else, but in 1930s, 40s, 50s, I can't remember when I think she might have retired in 1950s or early 60s. But in that time,
a nurse does not speak back to a physician. I mean, in today's day, that doesn't happen.
Tell mom that.
Well, right. I mean, some do, but you know, some nurses feel you're not supposed to question a physician. I feel everybody freaking question everyone, for God's sake. Nobody's perfect. So a nurse did not question a physician. A woman did not question a man. A Black person did not question a white person. So she had all these things against her, and she's just doing what she's told.
Probably trying to do the best she can for the people that they know are in a bad situation. Like,
right.
at least they have me as...
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Tuskegee Institute, he said, similarly to Nurse Rivers, that they were kind of manipulated as well into their participation. And it wasn't really that they participated. They just kind of provided the facility.
Right.
I'm sure she feels guilty about it.
Well, I feel kind of mean for my comment. I'm sorry.
Well, no, because when you hear about the things, you're going to get mad at her.
Because looking at that from my eyes and my time, and not looking at that from the eyes of 1930 Black female. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, Ing.
Thank you. Before we do our ending thing, I did forget to say that this study did prompt the creation of the Belmont Report, which, well, let me tell you how the Tuske. What?
Tuskegee? Tuskegee. Yeah, Tuskegee. It's Tuskegee.
Tuske-Bee-Gee.
That's what you told me at the beginning of the episode.
So the Tuskegee study violated the basic bioethical principles of respect for, so the Belmont Report, autonomy, because the participants were not fully informed in order to make autonomous decisions.
True.
Non-maleficent, which means no harm, and the participants were harmed because a treatment was withheld even after they knew there was an appropriate treatment. And justice, because only African Americans were recruited.
Belmont Report.
Yes. So, okay. Anyway, I've been staring at my little notepad over here, wondering what it was that I kept forgetting to say. Oh, one other thing. There's another book by Jim Jones called Bad Blood. Dude.
Oh, shoot. I thought I muted. I'm so sorry.
There's Jim Jones wrote another book called Bad Blood, which is that Fred Gray refers to quite often in his book. But I didn't read it because I did an Audible, and that was not an option for an Audible. But I think that sounds like something I kind of want to read. It sounds really informative. So that's it. Let's do our little beesies. Bee-Gees. Let's do our Bee-Gees.
Ba 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 ba.
Bee-Gee Tuskegee.
Oh, geez. Okay. You go first.
Be vaccinated.
Oh.
Even though this was not vaccines.
Be informed. Always.
Be non-maleficent.
That's great. Yes. Be questioning. Like, I don't want people
inquisitive.
Be inquisitive. Thank you. Be inquisitive.
Now, why do you say that?
Because I don't want people to be skeptical, because I don't want them to automatically assume the worst. But I do want them to be on their guard, because there are people and organizations and government organizations that will try to take advantage of you. So
be well informed.
Well, I already said be informed. That was my first one. I didn't say
well.
I just said be informed. No, I'm saying be skeptical. Be informed, and then also be skeptical. Or be inquisitive. Okay. Would you say inquisitive?
Inquisitive. And Bee-Gees.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you again. We love you.
We love you.
And
stay happy and safe and healthy.
We already did all that.
I know, but I really want people to be happy and healthy.
Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to reach out to us or submit your situation, please contact us at anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Another Situation Podcast. We're also on Facebook at Another Situation.
Another Situation is produced and edited by Point 5 Pinoy. Music is written and performed by Tim Crow.